as user.
Yes, we can hear you.
I changed gadgets. I want to project my slides. I hope I can. I can manage. But I had sent them to you, Ruth, in case I fail to project them.
David, also, be alert. I'm on a phone.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So our topic for today is family planning and best practices for a Christian. I wanted to change it to family planning, Christian perspective, but since this is what I was given, I thought let me leave it as it is. Good slide show. I don't see it. Okay, can you see?
Yes, now it is on slideshow. That's good.
Okay. Yeah. So I started off by definition of family planning. Family planning is believed to be a way of life. You choose to have that way of life. But in terms of definition, it is referred to as a method or something, not a method, but a way to regulate the number and spacing of children in a family. It can be, it can be done through the practice of contraception or other methods of birth control. It is voluntary and there is a very big degree of responsibility in decision making by the individual or couples as to the family size and timing of births. The basis of family planning is based on knowledge. That is knowledge of what you're doing, your attitude, and your decisions as an individual or couple. And family planning promotes health and welfare of individuals, families, and contributes to social development of a community and the country. So what are the benefits? Why should we go through family planning? Family planning is part and parcel of the packages the Ministry of Health offers to individuals as part of minimum health package. So you will see it in the programs for the Ministry of Health. And it has been slow to catch up compared to other health packages, particularly in reproductive health, but is a basis for improving safe motherhood. It's thought to be a major pillar in safe motherhood and prevention of maternal mortality, and is actually taken as a human right for women. So the benefit of family planning is to improve maternal health. If you have been involved in looking at maternal deaths or women who miss dying, what we call a near miss for maternal mortality, you find when you go deep into their history of reproduction, you wonder why this woman didn't avoid this pregnancy that took her life. Or sometimes women produce and they lose a lot of blood and they have a lot of ill health, or they have an underlying condition, and the pregnancy is one of the catalysts of making the ill health worse. So in terms of improving maternal health, yes, family planning has a big role. Even in infant health, it is believed, and I'm sure you know, that if the mother is sickly, the baby doesn't fare any better. The first food of an infant is from the mother. And the care of children, the first carer is the mother. So if the mother is unwell, she can't do better with her children. The other benefit is increase in education, not for the woman only, but for the family. They can have their resources and manage to have education. The woman can also improve her education status if she is not only in the business of producing children. Family planning can end hunger. You may ask me how, but if you have many mouths to feed and little food, you're likely to be hungry. And population pressures have worked on our land, that it is no longer very productive because people have to keep digging to get enough food out of that land, which land is not being replenished. It can protect the environment. There has been a lot of encroachment on forests because populations are growing, people are producing, they need land. So we encroach on forests, we encroach on water resources, we pollute the environment. We are generating a lot of pollutants. It empowers women. They are able to take care of their health and look after the family. It can prevent HIV/AIDS and prevent unwanted pregnancies. There are other benefits that we get out of family planning. Some we call them non-contraceptive benefits. So as a result of taking contraceptives, you may reduce anemia for certain contraceptives. You can reduce severe pain. There are other benefits which I haven't put here. Now, part of family planning is treatment of infertility. But we, in Africa or in Uganda, we look so much at the number of children who are becoming many, and we forget that there's part of the population that is really looking for a family and they cannot get it. And because we have too many of those who are producing, we forget the small minority who are suffering, who are not very happy, and they are looking for children. And of course, there is an awareness of one's fertile period, and we shall see the benefits of these. Now, so family planning can be achieved through contraception. Now, contraception is contrary to conception, is the act of preventing pregnancy. It can be a device, it can be a medication, it can be a procedure, it can be a behavior. And the behavior, you know, is like abstinence or periodic abstinence. A procedure is like an operation to stop you from producing. A medication, those ones, you know, we have pills, we have injections. Devices, we have barrier methods, we have intrauterine systems or contraceptive device. So there are two main broad methods of contraception. And we can broadly divide them into two. Temporary, in that you use them for a short time or a long time. When you stop them, you can conceive and continue with your reproductive career. Or permanent, these are methods you use to stop producing. I hope you can see the first half of this slide. So I'm starting off with the hormonal methods. The hormonal methods are the commonest you're going to meet. And these include the common combined pills. And combined here is the amount of medicine in it, different types. We have estrogen and progesterone. These are the hormones that you're going to find in pills, in the common pills you see on the market. Then there are what we call progesterone-only pills and postcoital contraception. I've put it here because your young people will be asking you about it. Combined pills are taken daily, and they are very effective in preventing pregnancy. Progesterone-only pills are reserved for women who are breastfeeding because they are not very effective. So they depend on being complemented by breastfeeding. Then you have postcoital methods, or what is called emergency pills. These are not regular contraception. They are used once and they are not encouraged to be used, but you use it once if you think you had a sexual intercourse at a time when you may be fertile and you're not ready for a pregnancy. Then we have injection and implants. Injection are given straight into the body, and the common one we have is Depo-Provera. There's another one which is not common. They are long-acting. They are storage methods. They go in the body and stay in for some time. So when you're counseling women who are using them, usually you tell them the body is going to keep this method in working, and when you stop, you don't get pregnant straight away for most women. It depends on how fast and the body can excrete or can remove this drug from the body. And these injectables are recommended for women who wish to wait for a long time before pregnancy. Sometimes it may take up to 2 years from the last injection, by which time the woman may be nervous that she's not going to produce. But if you've counseled her and you've selected the right person, then you should be able to sustain her through this waiting period. Injectables again can cause irregular bleeding and weight gain. Sometimes we stop the method because the women put on a lot of weight. The implants are also long-acting. They are put under the left arm, the upper left arm. They have to be removed by a trained person, and they may take up to 5 years, usually 3 to 5 years. What is on the market is 3 to 5 years. The user may have irregular periods also. Rarely do they gain weight, but sometimes they gain weight, sometimes they get headaches. So in terms of counseling, you need to talk to these women, but also in terms of selection as to who uses what method, that the health worker should take that person through counseling and selection of the right method for that person. Then we come to the intrauterine device. It's one of the methods that is available. It's quite controversial for some people. And there are 3 generations. We have the first generation didn't have any hormones. It was called the Lippies loops. Those could stay in the body for as long as you want. And actually, sometimes in the last like 3 or 4 years, I've seen people who've kept them up to 60-something years. The second generation are the copper containing. They have copper, a metal called copper, the usual copper. And the third generation are the millennia, which have a progestogen hormone. Now, lipids and copper, we don't know exactly how they work, but it's believed they cause a hostile environment so that when the sperms get in the uterus, they are immobilized and they don't make an egg pregnant. That's one of the methods. The second one is that they could cause the egg may be fertilized, and then it moves through the uterus very fast and is expelled before it implants. And that's where the controversy comes. Is it causing a micro abortion? Because if the egg is fertilized and then it moves through, then possibly that's an abortion. Of course, and the hormonal don't act that way because they have progestogen, and we use them mainly in women who bleed, who have heavy periods. You put it in the uterus and it regularizes the periods, and it acts like the other progestogen containing methods, that is the injection and the implants. It can stay in the body for 5 years and it is removed. And the other advantage of the hormonal method is that it can be used in women who have cancer of the endometrium, because it suppresses the cancer. So it's a non-contraceptive benefit of that method. Now, the permanent methods are male and female, and they consist of cutting the tubes that move the eggs from their origin for the female to the uterus, to the place where they are fertilized in the tube and to the uterus. And they are permanent and not reversible for all intent and purposes. They can be reversed, but the success is about 10 to 30%. And we usually reserve those for people who have completed their family. And if someone has a shade of doubt as whether she will change her mind, it's not good to give them this method. The males, the tubes, the equivalent of a fallopian tube, which is a vas deferens that moves the sperms, is the one which is cut. But the male ones are easier to do than the female. They are permanent. It's permanent, although there have been some reversal. Even for the women, it can reverse itself in a few. I've seen it in a few women where it has reversed. And it is also reserved for those who have completed their family. Now, these ones need a lot of counseling and someone to understand. You don't take them in a rush kind of fashion, because if you do, then the regrets are many. And regret is one of the, for me, I think it is a very bad side effect to see someone saying, I wish I never did this. You didn't tell me this. You didn't tell me that. So the person needs to understand what they are going in for. Then we have the other methods, the barrier methods. The condoms became popular, particularly with HIV/AIDS. There are spermicides. These are gels or tablets that are used at the time of sexual intercourse, and they kill the sperms. You have a diaphragm. I'm sorry I couldn't put pictures for you. This is put to cover the cervix, that's the mouth of the womb, so that the woman doesn't get pregnant. There are sponges which have spermicide and cervical cups. There are cups that are left covering the cervix again, which is the mouth of the womb. And they can be used for someone who can't use the other methods. Then you have the natural family planning, which consists the calendar. Calendar is the days, and a woman must have a regular period to use a calendar method. It must be between 26 and 32 days. If it is either too short or too long, you're going to get mistakes and a person will get pregnant. Temperatures, and you see a slight temperature at the time of ovulation. And then, of course, changes in cervical mucus. Most people don't realize the mucus changes in the cycle, the menstrual cycle. After menstruation, which is blood, you get thick white. Then as you get near ovulation, it becomes clear like water or like glass. Once ovulation happens, it becomes thick white, and she cannot get pregnant. And if you are using the calendar method, the safest time is the last 7 days of your period, of your cycle, not period, but of your cycle. There, it's unlikely that you'd get pregnant. And of course, there's abstinence. You can choose to be abstinent. You can choose it as a method of contraception. For how long? It is the most effective, 100%, if you can't break the abstinence. So let's look at the Christian perspective. What are the biblical principles? Psalm 127, Genesis 1:28, we see children as a blessing. And you see, God gave us the Bible as our manual. Recently, I had an argument with this girl who was going to have the 7th Caesar, and she didn't want to stop. And we were worried because cesarean is it's not a normal way of delivering. So the more you have after 4, you're going into a risky time where you can damage, where the Caesar can damage your bladder, your other organs, and then you are in trouble. And she came up with the argument that God said we must multiply and fill the earth. And I said, but God didn't give the responsibility to one person. He gave it to all of us. So it depends on how you look at it. Children are a blessing, but also we must look at these gifts and not disregard our responsibility for these gifts and being able to provide for them. If you read Hosea 9:11, I read it and it kind of scared me. So we are the steward of these gifts. We are the steward of the earth. We have a responsibility to bring up these children in the best way. Now, if you are unable to provide for them, they are sick, you can't. They need school, you can't. provide. Surely, are we doing the best for our children? I leave it to you. You can have as many as you want, but do it in a way that you don't abuse the gift God gave you. You're a good steward of the gift that God has given you. Surely would want 10, 12, 13. I had one of my relatives who was having her 14th pregnancy. She actually almost died. And that's when I picked her up. I said, what on earth were you up to? She said, I can't stop on number 13. Number 13 is bad omen. I said, but you see, you almost died on the 14th because she lost the 14th and she bled and we had to give her blood. So somehow you have to look at your health as the steward who is responsible for these children, who is responsible for the land you are living on. I'm sure God gave us this land for us to be able to nurture it, to use it to His glory. Now, there are other methods like family planning methods, and I'm looking at the Christian views of some of these methods, and I'm not going to do justice by going in detail, but you can read. The natural family planning methods is accepted by many Christians as a natural and non-invasive method, and that's what the Catholic Church encourages its followers to use. But the challenge is that you must have a regular period between 26 and 32 days. You must be able to study your cycle and know when these temperatures are changing. You must be able to know when your mucus changes are happening so that you use it as a method. And as a couple, you must be disciplined to accept that this is not the right time. We may have a child, or if you want a child, then you aim at that time. So those are the drawbacks. The barrier methods are condoms, diaphragm. These are acceptable and viewed as acceptable by married couples. But you know that the users of these methods are usually not married. They are the casual sexual relationship who have, and with the advent of HIV/AIDS, sexually transmitted infection, they became very popular. Of course, you can't blame the errant human beings from using this. I've been in private practice for long. We used to see gonorrhea as a common condition, but now we don't. And I think the reason is because of these condoms. In a way, yes, we have prevented a disease that is going to destroy the reproductive system, mainly for women. But as Christians, what is our view? Do you give? Don't you give? In a married situation, yes, they use it. In the world, you give them to protect them from dying. Maybe like when they were asking Jesus why Moses allowed, when they were asking about the marriage, and he said because the generation is what it was, they allowed them to remarry. Maybe we can take that stand. I don't know. But we need, as Christians, you pray about it. The hormonal methods, these are the pills, the injectables, the implants, are generally acceptable by most Christians. And the permanent methods are but the debate is on whether it is good to make a method permanent. But I believe when it comes to family planning, it should be an individual decision. I'll come to that. So the Christian consideration, you should trust in the sovereignty of God to be able to guide you as an individual, as a couple. Respect human life. Let's respect human life. And marital unit and intimacy and stewardship and responsibility as people who are in this crooked generation. Can a Christian use an IUD, an intrauterine device? That has a lot of debate. The arguments for use is that it prevents abortions by preventing an unintended pregnancy, helps spacing pregnancy, allowing couples to provide, to plan, and to plan for their families. And some, like Mirena, can reduce menstrual cramps, heavy bleeding, and the risk of cancer of the endometrium. Now here, I will talk as on my personal perspective as a Christian doctor, because I am involved in offering some of these services. There are times when you have an individual who is a high risk if she got pregnant, and chances are that she could die. And then you find she can't use the pill, she can't use the injection because it does ABC to her. She can't, you can't do a permanent method on her, she doesn't want it. And the only method you have is an IUD. And you discussed the cons and pros of this method. As an individual, I usually pray about it and put it in. And hopefully, I don't know what proportion of these are going to be microabortions, but I believe I can prevent a death of the woman. I don't know whether I'm wrong, but these are personal opinion. But for the individual, you give it to them. But there are some people where you find you can't use anything except that method. What do you do? Do you use it? Those are arguments for. Let's look at arguments against. One is a potent that potentially IUD, some of the IUDs, not all of them, the first two generations can cause abortion in an instance which we don't know, because we are not certain of the mechanism, the total mechanism of action of IUDs. And then you look at the biblical concerns of children being a blessing, and where does life begin? The Bible says it's at conception. Even before conception, it says, the Bible says, God says, I knew you. So now I sometimes think through it and I say, maybe even those of us who don't want to get pregnant, we are against God's will, because there are some people he knew. But then we live in a situation where you are confronted with an individual who has a need. The individual is a Christian. What do you offer them? A pill will kill them, and I've seen people die from pills, from those hormones. An injection can cause another problem. So that's where you need to think through and discuss with the individual. So the personal decision is really with the person who is seeking a method. Our job is to give information as health workers, as a Christian, As to whether a Christian can use an IUD depends on the individual conviction, biblical interpretation, but they must have also a medical consultation. Consult with a healthcare provider about IUD types and mechanism. Unfortunately, the other one, which doesn't seem to cause abortions, is still very expensive, although government is now beginning to bring it in for the ordinary people, because a set at the beginning was about 400,000, which most people can't afford. And you should discuss with your spiritual leader or mentor and see. That is assuming your spiritual leader has also equipped himself or herself with the knowledge and can guide you through. But at the end of the day, the decision is personal. Nobody should dictate anything to you. I have a few reading resources. If you can get them, you can read them. One is Christian Women's Guide to Sexuality, and the other one is a family planning and the Christian. The authors are there. Thank you very much. I'd like to stop here and allow you to ask a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David, are you coming on?
No, please carry on, doctor. Thank you. I'm a bit in a distracted environment.
Let's look at them. The first one from Martha says, please, can you give us more light on the calendar method? And then there's also another one. There's a contraceptive pills. What is your take on that method, doctor?
Which one?
There is a trial, I think, on male contraceptive pills.
Oh, male contraceptive.
What is your take on that method? Then someone else asks, what are the side effects of the permanent methods? Those are the three that we have in the chat so far.
Okay, the calendar method, as I told you, it depends on the menstrual cycle, and you can look this up and read and understand it. It needs someone to describe it for you. You you study the length of your menstrual cycle from the first day to the day before the next period, and that's called the cycle. So if you started on the 1st of September and the next period comes on the 1st of October, your cycle is 30 days. If you started on the 1st September and the next period came on the 29th of September, that's a 28-day cycle. If you started on the 1st of September and the next one came on the 22nd, that's a 21-day cycle. Now, the calendar method assumes a number of things. One, that you know that your cycle and it's regular. Two, that ovulation occurs 14 days before the next period. So you must know when the next period is coming. If you don't, you can't use it.
go on, sorry.
So I said, if you counsel the individual well, they should be able to understand what they've gone in for.
Okay. Wow, thank you. I wish I was still giving birth. I would take a bit of advice. but me, now I'm just counseling others. I want to invite Reverend Barbara to give you a vote of thanks and also finalize this time. Reverend Barbara.
Yes,
Reverend
thank
Barbara.
you. Thank you indeed. Dr. Christine, we are so much blessed by this great wealth of knowledge that has been passed over to us. Wow, I am just excited about the whole thing because this is exactly what is troubling many young mothers and many young fathers, of course, on what methods to use, the kind of choices to make. Even when we are doing premarital counseling, those questions keep coming up about family planning. So I am sure that everyone that has logged on, whether we are still into active reproduction but at least we have someone that we are able to share these lessons with, because it is such a high demand aspect, family planning in families. And so, Doctor, we appreciate you. We applaud you for the great lessons passed on to us as mothers, as leaders, as sisters, as people who belong to families and people who interact with others. All those questions coming up, and we have seen lots of cases of some cases where young mothers have lost lives because they have taken a wrong family planning method, and people coming up with a lot of regret. I wish I had known. They are told that it's too late. So we applaud you. We applaud you, Dr. Christine. Thank you so very much for the sacrifice that you have made to speak to us, to prepare this huge session that you have shared with us. We appreciate you. May God richly bless you, friends. Yes, Doctor has spoken to us. It is now time that each one of us find someone to share something about family planning. There are lots of myths about family planning. There are people who have different cultural contexts, have myths about family planning. There are those who complete and also say no family planning because of the effects, but also some feel that the Lord says, go and reproduce, and so Magan multiply, that piece of scripture, which is sometimes misinterpreted in its context. So we thank you, Dr. Christine. I believe we are going to be better mothers, better parents in our families, planning for the children that the Lord is bringing to us in our homes. Thank you, and thank you so much. Friends, I think we are going to, if there aren't any more questions for us to put across,
I think there were two more questions in the, I don't know if you have time for them. Someone was asking, what is the best family planning method for age 45 and above? That's hormonal is not best for them.
Yes.
What's and the then best? They wanted something more on the temperature method.
Yes, and I also someone who just texted me and asked about the withdrawal method, that she has heard about the withdrawal method, and what is your take on that? Over to you, Doctor, to kindly respond to that.
Okay, thank you. Over 45, let me start with over 45, or in the 40s, family planning, contraception. Let's talk about contraception. You know that the family planning is a way of life. Contraception is what you use to stop a baby. Contraception can be a challenge. But as you grow older, the fertility also is going down. So you can afford some of these methods, like if your cycle is still regular, you can use abstinence. If your mind doesn't cheat you, you can use a condom. Because I know as women grow older, their frequency of sexual intercourse is not as much as for the younger girls. The hormones, particularly the combined pill, becomes more risky because of the increase in diseases that occur with age, diseases like diabetes, like hypertension, like the risk of clothes. So we don't quite encourage them, although they would be good in terms of raising your of reducing the effect of menopause, which are appearing, but they are not the best of methods. So you need still to discuss with the doctor and see what to use. Injections are no good. Pills are no good. Even IUD, I think, is useless at that age, except if you are using a Milena because of its ability to prevent cancer. So you may need to use the barriers only. I know people I've delivered someone at 50, not too long ago, at 50, at 47, at 46, so you can get pregnant. Now, the next one was on the temperature. The temperature, I think you need to read about it. We don't have time for that, but maybe another time I need to come in with demonstrations and show you how it occurs. And the third one, what was the third one? The third question, I've missed it.
The third one is someone asked about the withdrawal.
Oh, the withdrawal. The withdrawal is the commonest method used by people. It's a traditional method. It's not a modern method. It doesn't fall in the natural family planning. But remember, it works, but it can fail very miserably. Because you just need a drop of semen to remain in, and then you have a baby. So it needs high discipline, but the failure rate are about 36%.
Okay. You, Barbara, I think you can pray for us too.
Okay, thank you so much. My brothers and sisters who are able to join in this evening, may the Lord bless you, and let us